So backing out here from Tombstone proper, we're going to go off into the deserts a little bit, down St. Louis Street. Let me see if I can't find it. All right, right here. So I did do some horseback riding. So I promised myself if I was going to go do some horseback riding, I was going to do some horseback riding in Tombstone. So I did do Tombstone Adventures on Horseback, which is sourced out of San Diego. So when you talk to somebody on the phone, you're probably not talking to anybody in Arizona, but somebody in a completely different state, because they run several outfits in several different states. We did hit a snag upon showing up for a riding on Wednesday afternoon, and that was that our guide had an emergency, and we had to rebook for later that afternoon. We were all relatively accommodating. I could not do one the next day because that was the last day I was going to be there, and so it became more of an evening ride than an afternoon ride. Other thing that I wanted to note about the Tombstone Adventures on Horseback is that the sole guide for these adventures on horseback is moving to Colorado, and so if you go there in the future, there might not be a guide to do the trail riding. That trail ride does take you past Tombstone Monument Ranch, past the Ed Shefflin Memorial and the landmark statue for Tombstone. But that was another thing that I did. One of the first places I did the next day was the Tombstone Historama. Which the actual Historama is kind of like a museum thing, and it's narrated by Vincent Price. That's why I still have the ticket. You get 3 tickets when you get your admission to the Historama. One is to the OK Corral. One is to a free paper at the Tombstone Epitaph. So this is a paper that it's a replica of a paper that was printed the day after the hearing, so that the entire town knew what the hell was going on. And then, so you get a ticket for a paper, you get a ticket to the Historama, and then you get a ticket to the OK Corral. And that's for a gunfight. So I opted to do that because I knew I wanted the paper from the Epitaph. I, as you can see, didn't really give 2 craps about the Historama, even though they have some models there, but wanted to see some of the more museum-esque things. And I actually wanted to see the location of the gunfight as they had it stanchioned off. I did find a guide map at my hotel. That went in my pocket in case I got turned around, but we're talking all of 3 blocks. If I can manage to walk all the way around Disney, I promise you I really didn't need this. So I did do the Historama first. Where am I? So I went this way down toward the Historama, and then across from the OK Corral there is an art gallery. They were having a quilting show. So the Tombstone Art Gallery is right across the street from the OK Corral. And I did buy some artwork, because every time I see a Roadrunner, I geek the hell out, because we don't have Roadrunners around here. So I did buy some artwork. I did spend some time talking to the ladies. And right across the street is where they always line up the reenactors for the gunfight at the OK Corral. The reenactors, as far as I can tell, always kind of change out. I think the only one that does not change out is the guy who plays Doc, because I was there for 3 days, and it was the same guy playing Doc Holliday every time. Sad face. That man does not have a mustache.
Ready for a show?
Yeah.
Now I believe I said, are you ready for a gunfight?
It's the aesthetic. Because I had promised you guys I was going to go into the desert, and I was going to find, hopefully, not a snake and not a scorpion, but find a tarantula. And then I found out that a lot of the land around Tombstone is either privately owned or BLM cattle land. And by the way, not recommended you walk around in there, because they enforce people walking around in there with guns. So don't wander when you're in Tombstone. It won't end for you nicely. And the outskirts of town, not a nice place to be. So stick to the tourism part of it if you want to feel like you're okay. But since this is close to my face and I know it, since I did not have the option of going out in the desert and finding a creepy crawly, I did buy a Texas brown tarantula. Trying to get this to kind of look like a tarantula here. So this is a Texas brown, I would think. It's not too big. So he just kind of sits back there on his little spot. So I could say creepy crawly. So creepy crawly in resin. So there was that. So that was one of the first things I bought. I did find some nice clothes. The gift shops are really, really nice. They do tend to be a little bit touristy. And believe me when I say, you cannot go in any gift shop and get away from the 1993 movie Tombstone. It's a little disappointing. And it makes it a little kitschy. On the first morning that I was there and I went and did the Historama, I did buy a patch for the OK Corral so I could put it on my luggage. In the background, over by where I keep my bracelets, you're going to find a bumper sticker for the OK Corral because I was going to put it on my laptop. My laptop's not big enough for that, so it's just kind of sitting over there. I did buy a Tombstone Territory Sheriff's badge. And I did, sadly, take a little bit of dirt from the OK Corral shooting site. For those that are like, why? And I'm just like, it's just this little piece of history. Do I realistically understand that that's not actually the dirt that was there? Do I understand that that's not actually where the gunfight happened properly? Yes. It's just, I have an odd sense for souvenirs, so a little bit of dirt, a little bit of gravel from the side of the OK Corral. That was my thing. The first night I was there, I did try getting in on a Birdcage ghost tour. The ghost tours go on twice a night. However, and this is going to be my asterisk for everything you plan on doing in Tombstone, you may book a walking ghost tour that goes through Tombstone. It may cancel on you. Mine canceled on me because I didn't have anybody else to go with. I had booked solo. I tried getting in on the Birdcage solo. Almost all of these tours will say if you are a solo tourist, you need a group to go with. So my walking ghost tour, which was booked on Wednesday night, well, they changed to Thursday night. I tried to get in Tuesday night on a Birdcage ghost tour. I was so tired from traveling, I couldn't make it. Wednesday, I couldn't get in at all because they didn't have anybody who wanted to do it. And Thursday, well, all hell broke loose. And I barely got in on the second half of an 8 o'clock tour. Take everything when you see a haunting with a grain of salt, because haunting is the other part of the Tombstone experience. And if you talk to a local, they'll be the first ones to tell you it's a bunch of bullshit. It's all wires and lights and electronics and fuck that shit. The Eldorado Gunfight and Theater, this is one of your 3 gunfights that you can see. And these guys will walk all the way back here on 4th Street in Allen, and they will basically catcall to get you down there because it's 2 blocks off of Allen Street. There will be 4 to 6 reenactors basically catcalling to get you to go to the gunfight at the OK Corral. And then once you go south on Allen Street over by the Oriental, you will see more people catcalling to get you into that one, which runs 3 shootouts daily. So you do have 3 different shootouts, and you do have effectively gunfight barkers that will try and coax you into that. So you do have to choose because you probably won't have enough time for all of them. Now, Old Tombstone Western Theme Park. I did walk down here before they opened, and let me warn you, there is mini golf, and I don't really know how to feel about an Arizona mini golf adventure. but it did lend for this really, really pretty sunset scene. So the Old Tombstone theme park is very touristy. It's much cleaner than the actual rest of Historic Tombstone. However, understand it is probably the most touristy, kitschy part of it and the fakest part of it. Aside from this one asterisk, and that is, no, here it is, Ike Clanton's Haunted Hotel. That was not open when I was there. I would go in there just for the stupidity of it, because it seems really, really entertaining. It's one of the reasons why I want to go back, because I want to see how stupid that can be. Because you're dealing with a lot of actual history there, and the minute that you grab onto a piece of history and you try to save it, it's like saving a butterfly. You know, and every once in a while that butterfly might move, but eventually it's going to die. And it's so fragile that the slightest little breath can make its little wings move. And you will think long after it's gone, and you know it's gone, that it actually lives. And that's kind of how hauntings are. They're unpredictable. They are not a two-trick pony. And Tombstone is one of those towns that sadly has used their history and the ghost activity that is there and tried to cash in on that. So I have some footage from the Birdcage that's going to be in this video later. But understand, take everything you get in Tombstone with a grain of salt. Know that there is some actual history with it. But understand that this is overall a tourist town, and that some of it has either been completely blown out of proportion.
What that means is when you see the good guys, gentlemen dressed with ties around their necks, it's all rest of the stage. We want you to cheer for them. Conversely, when you see the dirty, smelly cowboys, it's all rest of the stage. We want you to boo them. Simple enough.
Yeah. Or it can very easily be a haunting that's been drummed up to be a regular performance with an RF remote and wires. Okay, it's very easy for what people experience to be faked, and there's a lot of carnival mentalist kind of tricks that can go into making the average tourist really believe that they're seeing a haunting. There is a lot of energy on Allen Street and a lot of history. Do I think I saw a ghost at the Birdcage? Probably not. Probably not. I do think something was talking to me while I was at the OK Corral. After going to the Birdcage and talking to one of the historians, because out of context it didn't make sense, but the historian was thinking that it was one of either two people. It was either Frank Leslie or it was Billy Claiborne, who was at the OK Corral when it happened, but fled the scene. So not the same as Billy Clanton, who was killed. Billy Claiborne was there and then went fuck this and left. And he later got a lot of shit for leaving the site of the OK Corral and not sticking by the cowboys during that gunfight, which could have tipped the scales. And later dies by getting shot by Frank Leslie, which I think is kind of ironic. And this is going to be like the carnival haunted house, and the Birdcage is the more subtle thing where you can tell that they've had ghost investigators in there. You can tell that Ghost Adventures has been there, Ghost Lab's been there, Ghost Hunters have been there, and they've been repeatedly investigated because they go off of iconic haunting activity rather than the light is flickering. Whoa! So understand you're going to get both of them. All right, so let's talk about the Birdcage Theater. So along with Shefflin Hall, the other big theater in town was the Birdcage. And the Birdcage was more of a standing of ill repute. This is where your prostitutes were. This is where your minors went. This is where the less savory crowd went. So Shefflin Hall is the nicer place, and the Birdcage is, well, hi boys. Now, the Birdcage was more than a theater. It doubled as a gambling hall, a saloon, as well as a brothel. And they say that any woman with self-respect wouldn't set foot in the Birdcage. It opened up in 1881, closed its doors in 1889, and in that span of time, it operated 24/7, 365 for all of your unsavory needs. Some of the most famous participants were Doc Holliday, Bat Masterson, Diamond Jim Brady, and George Hurst. And the house got 20% of the profits. The game ended when the groundwater seeped into the mines, flooding all the buildings, and in 1889, the town went bust along with the Birdcage Theater, which had to be closed. In 1993, the Birdcage Theater's new owners opened the place back up for a show. They found everything in the building was exactly the way it had left, even the poker table. Today, the Birdcage stands as a tourist attraction and a visual look at its colorful past. With the violent history, there is no short of supply of ghost activity reported here. Several ghost hunting teams such as Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Labs have investigated the place with incredible results. I kind of have to wonder how much of that was set up. Let's talk history versus hype. There is no local manufacturing here. It's just tourism. The only big box store here is a Family Dollar on Fremont, close to Wyatt's house, and there is one small gas station. So understand when you go, there is a lot of history still in Tombstone, but there's also a lot of simplifying the facts to foreign tourism and fan service. It's nearly impossible to walk into any gift shop without some piece of that 1993 movie found. Gunfight Barkers will sell you their version of some gunfight at nearly every shop selling some Old West 6-shooter gun belt. Just no reason you need that. The Birdcage, being one of the few original buildings that hasn't sustained massive damage from the two fires in 1881 and 1882 that destroyed most of the town, has the largest collection of historical artifacts as well as some of the most notorious paranormal experiences. While most prefer the ghost tours because of the chance of a ghostly experience, I enjoyed it for the history of the artifacts, and took the ghostly activity as a carnival gag, something to keep the crowds coming in and keep them coming back. If you're a believer, you could take them there and make them more of a believer. Now, while I have experienced many a ghost, they are not two-trick ponies trained on command, and some of this I could debunk, so please take your trip with a grain of salt. Don't take everything to heart. Understand most locals have their own interpretation of the truth, so you will get many versions of it if you ask. Do I plan on going back? Yes. But as I have seen what nonsense goes on during the actual tourist season, i.e. Vigilante Days, Eldorado, I'll keep my visits to the quieter off-seasons where I can enjoy breakfast at the OK Cafe and then a quiet morning sunrise on Allen Street.
Time they were copper, we were silver. So
is there anything in Bisbee now?
Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is known to frequent Bisbee quite a bit. In fact, he got himself kicked out of the Grand Hotel at one point. He went through their glass window. So yeah, I haven't seen him, but I've heard lots of people like, oh, Johnny's in town. So apparently he likes the city quite a bit, which fits his personality. These percentage girls is where I left off on. They use that little door under the stage, but that was only for them. That's why it's called the percentage door. Most people trying to get to the basement would use that bottom crib to my right over there. That is also where there is a barber chair where you would get a haircut, a shave, your boots shined. I'm sure you could get other services in there, but the main purpose was to get cleaned up and like bathed kind of thing. Right behind the barber's chair, there is a hole cut in the floor. It's like 2 by 3. It is a tiny freaking hole, y'all. There would be a set of stairs at that base that would lead to a door that leads to the basement. So it was a big hoopla to get yourself down to the basement. These stairs were not put in until we became the museum. So we're talking 43, 50, that time frame. And the Hearst wasn't brought into the place until the 70s. So we didn't have all of this stuff at once. We got those. Oh, let's go with, one of our more famous patrons was Russian Bill. Russian Bill rented this bottom crib right in front of the faro table 2 years straight. Now you have to think again, $25 every single night, which is like $650 today, right? $640, $614. I really did the math. I think it's actually a little less, but don't quote me. Anyway.
That's okay. We
Russian-
know it's over
right?
600 and that's a lot.
Exactly. His aunt was a czarina. That's how close to royalty he was. He fell in love with stories of the West. That's how he found himself here in Tombstone. He was trying to convince everybody that he was this rough and tumble cowboy, but he was well spoken, he was kind, he was clean, he was tall, he was like lovely to look at, and that's not normal, right? Well, as he stole a horse. Now, stealing a horse in the 1880s is punishable by death. So someone helped him escape Tombstone, but then he was caught in Texas, where he was eventually hung. His aunt did come looking for him, but she got here too late to find him. The layout of the room. So I showed you where all the gaming tables was. These benches behind you here would have been placed in front of the stage. And we know that because remember, when you have a really good show and you're having a blast and you're drunk off your ass, what do? You show your appreciation by shooting. And they're in rows, which is like, again, the benches were from the stage. But just like if you're having a really good time, you shoot the ceiling. If you have a bad time, you're shooting at the stage. So that whole stage, that white part, is like peppered with bullet holes, as is the curtain. The movies have velvet curtains. That is Hollywood. They did that because they painted Fatima on there, but she's always hung on that wall. So these are the original Birdcage Tombstone Theater curtains. Ta-da!
Oh,
I was gonna get it out eventually.
I missed that it's a curtain.
It's a curtain. And I'm going to show you how we put on productions, because you see how small that front stage is.
Yeah.
I'll show you how we put on productions a little bit later. I told you about him, I told you about those, the craps table, those tables, the silver, why we closed our doors. Piano. I've also heard that piano play. The woman I think I saw was Miss Hugart. She's the woman in that round frame. I am then going to I want you to take a really good picture of Miss Hugart. Her hair, the way her face, the way she's standing, you can kind of see how she's holding her arms, because I truly believe I caught a picture of her backstage. And it's like clear and crisp. The case behind you has some fun things in it. That is not a new hangman's rope. I should say it's not new, which might explain why we have some of the spirits that we do in here. We have some dentistry items from Doc. We also have a bullet pulling devices. There was actually a doctor in town known as the best bullet puller in town. So to get that reputation, there was a lot of shooting. Bat Masterson frequented this place quite a bit, and he was one of our high stakes gamblers as well. We have his cane. We have the ivory dagger that stabbed our Margarita. She's one of our confirmed spirits. She bled out right there in front of the stage. But the dagger that killed her is in that gun cabinet, so it explains why she's still here. In fact, I think I might have her picture. This was sent to me a couple years ago. The woman who sent it said she took it from the first crib. At first, I thought she meant this crib, and now I'm wondering if she meant this crib. Now, could it be reflections? Could it be light, like working with the staining of the wall, these round tables here, and the floor would be littered with them? The story is Jerome was playing cards, and he was shot in the neck because they thought he was cheating at cards. Turns out it wasn't Jerome who was cheating. So one of our spirits is him. And then, of course, our other one is Margarita. Now, she died pretty much where you're standing, and just in a matter of minutes bled out before the doctor could get here in time. The typewriters I've heard go off. Miss Hugart, why do we have the doctor's wife in a brothel? She was not a lady of the evening. We do have her silver, which I think is a big part of it. And then the woman's clothing at the top of the stairs also belongs to her. So I'm going to show you just how tiny she was too, because that's her stuff. But for
There he goes again.
pretty much.
There we go.
That picture there is Juani. He was our cantina owner. Oh, our little Apache May. I almost missed her. Now, we have a lot of children's spirits here. And I can feel the difference between when there are men in the room, not like living, but like our ghosts. I can feel the difference when there are men when it's lighter. And when it's lighter, it's either the women or the children. I can't really distinguish between women and child, but I can when it's a man. That man feeling, that really heavy, oppressed feeling, I get downstairs, and you might feel it too. The guys don't report it, but the women do. I want to bring up Apache May because I think I caught her on camera too. Apache May did not die here whatsoever. She was left behind when there was a raid on her Apache village. That's why she got the name Apache May. One of our very rich ranchers, the Slaughters, took her in, ended up raising her until she was about 10 years old. At about that time, they found her. Ooh, the one on the table's going off. This is kind of exciting because this doesn't happen. The one on the craps table just lit up. This is kind of exciting because these don't go off all the time, you guys.
Yeah, but they like us.
Right? You brought
Okay,
it.
so did Dan tell you what happened when I went to the corral like yesterday? So
Oh, they like you too.
I can sometimes hear them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
Same exact woman. And she would be standing here. Now this is all the lights on. I had just come through to kind of like, okay, you know, you get your bearings, remember the stories. Every time I give the tour, I give a slightly different version because I remember a different type of evidence. So.
like, obstinate reminders of somebody's passing is as offensive as the worst racial slur.
Interesting.
Is there an EMF reader on my left?
There is.
Okay.
I put that one there this week because last week I had made a comment that that's a really busy hallway, or it would have been a busy hallway because that's the door into the basement, and one flickered. So I put it back to see if I could get anybody making it flicker again.
Okay, so what we got? One on the craps table, one on the poker table,
One on the Pharaoh table.
one on the faro table, and then one on my left, which I don't remember what is over here. Okay, so you want me to ask a question out loud. Okay. So here's my question. To whoever talked to me at the gunfight yesterday, is it Frank Leslie?
Do you think they followed you here?
I don't know. I bought Frank Leslie a shot at the Oriental last night as a peace offering.
Who was the other person that you thought it might be?
Dan thinks it might be Billy Clanton. Okay, it's neither one of those.
Are you a young lady with us? Not one of our ladies, not one of our girls?
Is it one of the ghosts for the Birdcage? Or is it a roaming ghost? Nice.
Is Charlie a roaming ghost?
No, he sticks to that hearse like glue. He haunted that hearse before we even had the hearse. People had recorded him, seeing him, hearing him, when it was still inside the Undertaker's.
Hello.
So we'll take that as a yes that Charlie is stuck to the hearse. Is who would talk to me at the show stuck at the OK Corral? Are they locked to the OK Corral? Nothing. Meek buggered.
See, I don't know if we get other spirits. Like, I think the spirits that are attached to the birdcage is because we have their stuff, like Charlie and the hearse, or they actually died here.
So did you die here?
You guys hear that?
Yep.
That was backstage.
Yeah, it was.
Before I forget, did you remember to bring that book up with you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And a t-shirt.
Okay. Because I don't know about you, I'm not going downstairs again.
No. That was why I asked, because I didn't want to have to go back downstairs. So, old leather?
The smell
Is
of old leather?
Do you smell like, did you work with leather?
I wonder if it was just his clothing, like his hat or his jacket. It smelled like dusty leather down there.
A cowboy or a miner? I guess that's not good. Are you a cowboy?
See, I don't know if they're picking up on cowboy or miner because you said the question too fast.
Yeah. Are you a miner?
Did you lose your silver here? Did they take all your money? Or did you willingly pay for those girls?
Or poker? Or pharaoh? Were you robbed? Did you mine copper? Did you mine silver?
Were you married? Did you have a special girl?
Did you have a favorite girl here at the Birdcage? Must have really liked that girl. Were you in your 20s when you decided to stay here?
I saw you switch your train of thought on that one.
What was that?
I saw you switch your train of thought on that one.
Were you in your 30s? Were you in your 40s? Or maybe I should say, are you in your 50s? So you said Jerome was here?
So Jerome was here. So we know his story because he spoke to a couple mediums. And when they speak to different mediums over years, we kind of like, oh, this one's legit.
So how old was Jerome?
I have no idea, to be honest with you, but he was playing poker and he was shot in the neck here. And then he wanted his story told that he wasn't cheating, it was the other guy. He really wanted to make sure we said that.
Got it.
So what was Jerome's profession?
I have no idea. All we know is that he was gambling here.
So are you Jerome?
Do you like having the people here?
If he answers no out loud, I swear.
Is it easier to make the dog light up or make one of the EMF detectors go off?
I think that dog is real sensitive.
The
to
dog is
touch.
easier?
Yeah. I think so too.
So are most tours this active?
Actually, no. So that's what's funny. Most tours have nothing at all. So yes, we're haunted, and we're considered the most haunted. Yes, I agree with that too. But honestly, it's quiet. It's taken me years to collect the stories and to show you the pictures that I do have, because these things don't happen every night. They do happen, but it's not an every night occurrence. Most of the time we sit in the dark very quietly and we just talk to the dark. We'll get a shadow, we'll get a flicker maybe, but it's just quiet.
Are you the one that moved the canvas at backstage?
That was an instant response.
That was an instant response. Are you tied to the mannequin that's back there?
Ask again.
Are you tied to the mannequin that's back there? And the coffin?
That's a stage coffin, so I don't know.
If it happened when somebody died, he could be attached to it? Better question. Are you a guy or are you a lady? Duh. Bad question. Are you a man? It'd have to be a man, wouldn't it?
A boy? Are you a boy?
Yeah, because didn't they use kids sometimes because the caves got too small at some point?
So we use the youth, yes.
Yeah.
Are you a girl?
Doesn't feel like a girl in here.
It doesn't. It feels masculine.
The girls have a light feeling, kind of playful. It doesn't feel like a girl. It doesn't feel angry. I don't feel like it's a bad. I just don't feel like it's a girl.
Yeah, no. You know, it's kind of amusing because I always watch these ghost hunter shows and I always think they're bogus. Thank you for proving me wrong. They always kind of feel set up.
But he's not talking to you?
No, I'm not getting a voice.
But the sensor's not going off anymore either.
Yeah, the EMF's not going off, which is why I was like, it must be easier for the bear to go off, the dog, bear, stuffed animal, than it is for the EMF detectors.
All right, I'm gonna go grab those lights. You guys stay where you are for just a little bit longer, okay?
Well, this has definitely been a productive night. Ooh, bright lights.
Not sure what that's about.
Alright, you guys can go ahead and look around a little bit more. Is he still here? I'm gonna put a few chairs away, but if you guys wanna check out some of the more, I put a few around on this one too. Feel free to look around for just a few minutes. It's up to you guys. You guys are ready to put chairs out. There's just so much history and I'm just curious and really impressed. So, look around for a few, totally fine. I'm just gonna stick some chairs away while you guys are taking pictures. And we'll allow your stuff in front too.
Right, upright, okay?
But the dog was giving him an opportunity
To speak.
yeah.
Was he saying come back maybe? Or like, fuck you? No, sorry.
So that'll be my last question. Do you want me to come back? Do you want these guys to come back? You want to be left alone tonight? You done talking?
Do you want her to come back?
I think that dog has had it. Staying here.
Oh, this guy in the car for like a second. What's that? His foot's lighting up.
Yep. You want him to come back?
Well, I'll be back to finish cleaning up.
Don't harass him.